to attract people? Is it because you have been told not to recruit? What in fact explains your lack of the necessary human resources?
Commissioner, it's a mix of issues. For example, in the last recruitment, we were given a number of, for example, Pretoria, we were given about 8 posts which were advertised. But due to some red tapes in the system, we end up only appointing one person. And as a result, posts are withdrawn. And that does not consider the impact on those environments. So if we have 8 posts that are advertised, and because of the process, then you end up not appointing those 8. It's a lost opportunity. It's definitely a lost opportunity, because for that process to restart again in government, things takes long. So you are not able to replace your members as they resign or they go to other areas. You are not able to replace them because in some instances you are being disadvantaged by some of those red tapes. Like I'm making an example of these 8 posts that I could not fill, and those were posts which we urgently need, but we were not able to fill them. We only had one analyst from those. So those are some of the things, commissioners.
And when you speak of red tapes, such as what? And I ask Brigadier because it's a topic that we are spending a bit of time on, and so it's clear that it has some significance.
To be specific on this one, commissioners, there were queries regarding the requirements on the advert, that the advert was too vague, it excluded certain individuals, and as a result, there was no appetite to proceed. Some were saying we'll be challenged if we proceed to appoint. So those are things that, in my view, are low-hanging fruits, that if you do your work diligently, you will be able to avoid those kind of things. For me, those are elementary, but those are the things that eventually end up having posts being withdrawn.
Mr. Cheska.
Can I ask, Brigadier, as you, those figures that you gave us in relation to resources that you need, do they relate to unfilled existing posts or to posts that would have to be created before they could be filled?
Commissioners, the majority will be unfilled existing posts.
And does your section have any strategy for attracting people to those posts?
Commissioners, credit to the management of the Forensic Science Laboratory. They fought so much to implement what we call scarce skills allowance, where forensic analysts are receiving a certain amount called scarce skills just to retain their skills. Because in the past, our analysts were recruited by countries overseas for their skills. As a result, the FSL management at some point decided to implement a scarce skills in order to try to retain. It works to a certain extent, but you know, as human beings, sometimes the money become used to that allowances and you want more. But currently, in order to attract, this is what the lab has, a scarce skills allowance.
Thanks, Brigadier. Let's move on to a completely different topic. And from paragraph 18, you describe how analysts get assigned to crime scenes? And can you take the Commission through that process?
In respect of crime scenes, the standard procedure at ballistics is that 2 members will be on standby on a rotational basis weekly. They will be assigned vehicles and a cell phone. The stations or the LCRC members, they've got the contact details of the number assigned to the standby. If a scene takes place where ballistics is required, they will call that number, and whoever is on standby will attend. We pair the members in twos for practical reasons that when we are in a crime scene, you must be able to assist one another. So then the members will report. In most cases, we have got a WhatsApp group. They will report and say, there's a crime scene we are attending, just for management to take note. So in terms of crime scene, that is how the process works, Commissioner, under paragraph 18.
And then how does the process proceed from the crime scene all the way through to the lab? Can you take us through paragraphs 19 and 20?
The analyst will attend the crime scene, process the crime scene, take pictures, measurement, reconstruct the scene. On the scene, they will complete a crime scene report, they complete a crime scene form with the details of the case, summarize everything that they saw, and upon arrival at the lab, they will hand over the form to the case management for the case to be registered on the FSL system in order to generate a unique lab number for that particular crime scene. And once the lab number is generated, that crime scene will be assigned to the member who attended the crime scene. Between the members, they will decide. In most instances, you will find one first-time standby or second standby. They will decide who is doing the crime scene amongst them. The crime scene will assign to them. Then they must write a crime scene report explaining all what happened on the crime scene. And the crime scene, the case will then be closed on the FSL system once the crime scene has been issued to the investigating officer.
Now, in paragraph 21, you say that ballistics casework is allocated on a random basis to the analysts by the ballistics analysis commander. But it's not entirely random, because you say it has regard to certain considerations. So what are the considerations, and how do they affect the assignments?
One of the consideration, commissioners, is that the member who attended a crime scene, if further evidence are brought to the laboratory, that member will continue with the analysis of that case. So the analysis commander will check before assigning the case. If this case comes as a second entry, he will check who examined the first entry. If it was a crime scene, he will check who is the analyst who went to the crime scene. And he will say, now they are sending a firearm, or now they are sending cartridge cases. So you, the analyst who went and attended the crime scene, you must now proceed with this case. So that is one of the considerations.
Can you explain why you have this policy that if one analyst attends the crime scene, that analyst should also deal with later exhibits that come in?
For practical reason, commissioners, it just makes sense that you were on the crime scene, you saw what happened, you have got an idea. So you have already formulated, you have already acclimatized yourself with the case. So it makes sense that when the exhibit comes later on, you proceed. You have already started the work. It's just for practical reasons. It makes it easier. And again, you don't have to assign that one case to multiple analysts where they will have to go and testify on the same case which may create problems when it comes to chain of custody and the likes. But for practical reasons, the person has already started with the work, so they must complete the work that they've already started.
And of course, in relation to that point you made in relation to multiple analysts having to testify, when an analyst goes to court, that takes resources out of your office, because it's not like the analyst arrives at 10 o'clock, is heard at 10 o'clock, finishes at 11 and comes home. Sometimes the analyst has to spend a day in travel, wait for 2 days while the previous witness finishes, and eventually can be out for several days, having to testify for only a few hours, even less than an hour.
That is true, commissioners.
You also refer to level of competence required for ballistics analysis. Can you just explain that concern? Why are some ballistics cases more difficult than others?
Commissioner, ballistics is an in-service training. There's no formal institution in any country where you'll go to university to study ballistics. It is offered in-house. We take you through to levels of training, in different categories of cases, and as you progress, we declare you competent on that particular level of examination. You are qualified. But all in all, for you to be a fully fledged ballistics, you'll have to go through 12 levels or 12 modules, 12 levels of stages of training. And that is determined by the degree of the cases that we analyze. So, for example, someone who's just started training with us, joining us less than a year, they will be examining small cases like only cartridge cases that to identify the caliber. So they won't be able, for example, to do cases where they are required to determine if this firearm is the one which fires these particular cartridge cases. So therefore, when you assign cases, this is one thing that you must also check, the level of training or competency. So as analysts qualifies, they are able to do more complex cases, which you cannot ordinarily assign to junior analysts that are still under training.
Thank you, Brigadier. And then if you can take us to your section about how the ballistics analysis is conducted within your section, starting from paragraph 23.
Maybe before you do that, Brigadier, on just that last answer you gave or explanation you gave, do you find that, are you able to say that you have a sufficient pull, at least in the market, that is the SAPS, taking into account the training that you've described? You have sufficient pool or human resources from which to draw to fill in these positions, and taking into account the different specialties?
Commissioner, when we advertise posts, you'll find out maybe we advertise 5 posts. We received over 200 applications. So the pool is there because of the number of interested people that are applying for those posts. So the pool is always there. The only thing is to have resources to recruit as much as you need. We don't have a problem with the pool, Commissioner.
And can I clarify, is that true both of the ABIS section and the ballistics section?
That is correct, Commissioner.
So if you can take us through the process that you describe in paragraph 24, which deals with the ballistics side before we reach ABIS.
Commissioner, for the purpose of this statement, I will outline the process of conducting a ballistic analysis of linking a firearm with cartridge cases collected from the crime scene. The analyst will receive the case in a sealed bag They will open the seal, take out the firearm, and complete what we call the pro forma. The pro forma will outline the details of the firearm, the station. Details, I mean the caliber, the make, the manufacture of the firearm, detailing if the firearm is in working condition. And thereafter, he or she will then take ammunition for test purposes, go and shoot tests. And if there are cartridge cases that are collected from the scene and bullets, he will also document the information of those cartridge cases on another pro forma specific for the ammunition and cartridge cases. With the test that he has shot, he will take the exhibit from the crime scene and the test as a reference to a comparison microscope and compare to see if he can see similarities between the two. If he's satisfied that there are similarities, he will complete another form, which is called comparison microscope form, detailing the results in that form. Then another qualified analyst must come and confirm the results in the microscope. In other words, this analyst will not tell this other analyst that these are my findings. That analyst must, by themselves, go into the microscope and look and see and write what they see and sign a separate comparison microscope form. If they all agree in terms of the results, then the analyst will proceed in his office and compile a Section 212 affidavit in terms of the Criminal Procedure Act and take it for typing or type it himself. And once the report is commissioned as a statement, then he will take the entire case file to an independent case review. The case review is to check quality. They will tick, they've got a checklist that they tick what they are happy with. If they are not happy with the examination, if there are typos, technical, they check technical and administrative review. If they are not happy, they will return the case file to the analyst to go and make corrections. Until they are satisfied, they will then sign and mark that case as a case that meets the standard procedure. And then they will finalize the case on the FSL system and close it. From there, the case will take another route to the case management, where the exhibit will be dispatched to the stations and the case file will be archived at the lab. So that is the process under ballistic. Then the case is final, the analysis is out. Then it will await for the next process of IBIS.
Thank you, Brigadier. There are a couple of questions I want to follow up on. First is to clarify, there are broadly two safeguards built into this process. The one is that there will be independent review. So your initial analyst, who is comparing the test cartridge with the crime scene exhibit, will have reached their own conclusion privately. Those same two artifacts will be handed over to an independent analyst who doesn't know what the original conclusion is, to look at under the microscope and to convey his or her results. And one hopes that they would usually coincide. What happens if they don't coincide? What happens if you have an independent reviewer who says there's a match, there's no match here, but the original one said there is a match?
Commissioner, it does happen a lot. And under those circumstances, they will call a third opinion. They will call another analyst to come and check. And whoever says it's positive, in some instances, I will ask him or say, show me, what is it that you saw? Then They will place the exhibits on the microscope and say, look at this mark and look at this mark. Depending on the quality of the mark and how I'm convinced, I might end up saying, yes, I see what you see. Or I may say, no, despite what you are showing me, I still don't agree. I see, maybe, yes, the mark I see, but it's not sufficient, for example. In my view, I wouldn't make it positive. I wouldn't make it positive. Then the third person will come and say, and eventually there will be some agreements after some persuasion and proving to the other one that this is what I saw besides what is there. It does happen a lot, commissioners.
And then at the end of the process, you have a case reviewer looking at the 212 document. What is the checklist that the case reviewer goes through? What is the case? The case reviewer is not looking at the microscope, for instance. Case reviewer is not doing their own independent analysis. They're just looking at the document that's prepared and that will ultimately go into the docket as a 212 affidavit. So what are they looking for there?
Commission, they will look into the forms that the analyst has used. I've mentioned a pro forma for the firearms, a pro forma for the ammunition. They will check the revision. On an annual basis, our quality process requires that we must review our forms, our procedures. When we review, we give it a latest revision number. So that once a form has been reviewed and a new revision has been implemented, we must obsolete all the other forms. You still find some analyst who maybe for some reason still uses an old form. And those are the things that the reviewer must check and tick. Did you use the latest form? You'll check the date, the request, you'll check the covering letter. If the investigating officers requested you to compare this case with another case, they will check, did you address the request from the investigating officer? They will check the dates, the sealback numbers. Do the sealback numbers correspond with what we have received and what we have documented? So they tick, there's a tick checklist that they tick yes, no. If there's a no, they write no, the dates, or no, the sealback number is wrong. Then they return. Then they'll say no. The case must go back. You must go and rectify whatever they've ticked in there. So that is basically what the reviewers are doing, commissioners.
Thank you, Brigadier. So there is literally a form with tick boxes that they have to, that identifies what they've got to go through.
That is correct. And after that, they must sign their signature so that we can be able to track and trace who did the case, who reviewed the case. And then when they are satisfied, they will close the case on the FSL system. That also will show us who reviewed the case, the date in which it was reviewed and finalized.
Could you send through, it doesn't have to be immediate, but could you send us a copy of that form that the reviewer has to check through so that we understand exactly what those boxes those boxes are? We'll have Captain Mkachwa and Captain Modisani coming to testify. I'm sure one of them, we can make an exhibit to their evidence in due course, because they presumably would know what that form looks like.
Certainly, yes, Commissioner. It's unfortunate I didn't bring a case file because it's always in the case file. So I would have just produced it now if I had the case file with me.
Thank you. We're now coming to the ABIS system, and a lot of the section that you describe from paragraph 26 onwards has already been touched on. So I'm going to ask you to jump around a little bit, because we shouldn't duplicate what's already happened. But the first point that you make is that the ballistics analysis process and the ABIS process are conducted independently of one another, that the ballistics analyst isn't the person who deals with the ABIS side of the analysis. And can you explain why that is the case?
That is true, commissioners. In the past, we had a one-stop for all, where the ballistic analyst will analyze a case. After analysis, he or she will go to the IBIS station to acquire the specimen that need to be acquired on IBIS. During that process, we started experiencing problems because we had a situation where the analysts were saying we are adding extra work, which in terms of their KPA, key performance area, is not there. While you have a subsection called IBIS, which is responsible for all IBIS responsibilities. So there was because of that reluctance from the analyst, we end up having problems with the quality of images, which affect the quality of hits that you'll generate. Then management had to take a tough decision that despite the fact that IBIS is understaffed, but we'll have to relieve the analyst of these responsibilities, and it must remain the sole responsibilities of IBIS. And from there on, we started to even go as far as generating a lab number for IBIS so that we can be able to account for the work that comes to IBIS once the case has been analyzed and completed at ballistics. It has to go through the process of registration where an IBIS lab number is assigned or to that particular case until it is assigned to an analyst and acquired on IBIS. So that is the background as to how this came about. And that created this independent between IBIS and ballistics. IBIS has a point where they end, ballistics has a point where they end, and IBIS has a point where they start and continue further.
Now, most of the rest of the ABIS process through paragraph 27.2 all the way through to 27.7, I think we've already addressed. Do you want quickly just to skim through those paragraphs, and if there's anything you want to add to what you've said already, please do.
Commissioner, I think I've covered all of them.
Then if we can go to 27.8, and so we've now gone through the ABIS process. We found the exhibits have been acquired into the ABIS system. The system has generated possible hits. The analyst has sat in front of the screen and has confirmed certain hits. The exhibits have been requisitioned, and another analyst has sat in front of a microscope and has confirmed that the hits that the system thought were good hits are in fact good hits. That analyst, then you say, prepares a new or their own Section 212 affidavit.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And then 27.9, after we've now finished this process, can you just read 27.9 and explain it to us?
A Section 212 affidavit is submitted to the case management section, who will then dispatch the affidavit through the ICDMS. The ICDMS will then trigger the SAPS CAS system to flag the hits identified. This is a latest development. In the past, we were working in silos. We were generating hits, sending the report to the stations, only to find out most of those cases were already closed as untraceable at the stations. We were not getting feedback of the hits of the intelligence that we are generating. Then there was an improvement that the system, where they linked the FSL system with the ICDMS, when you scan through the 212 report, it automatically trigger the CAS system at the station to reopen the case or to flag it. Whoever works on the station, the branch commander or whoever, will then be notified. When it goes on the system, they will take note that this case has linkages with other cases, and they will be forced to print the report on ICDMS and check what are the linkages. That will force them to start to follow those linkages. And as such, credit to the detective services, they've also added this particular performance in the KPA of the detectives. So they are also being measured on how they follow those linkages. If they don't, they have been penalized. So they must always make sure that they follow them and investigate so that there must be outcome. What happened to those hits?
But this is the first point, that the results of a match generated by ABIS get communicated to the investigating officers on the ground. You have an automated system here that will then go to every SAPS police station in the country, and if your investigation has now been linked through IBIS, you'll get a notification automatically at your police station that this is the case.
That is correct, commissioners. That will be.
And to go back to our earlier discussion, up until this point, although it may be 2-3 years since you asked for your first ballistics report, you wouldn't know that the murder you're investigating is linked to 2, 3, 4, 5 other crimes in different police stations.
Definitely, you wouldn't know except the links that IBIS has generated and are communicated to the investigating officer, commissioners.
And for those 2, 3, 4 years, you would have been pursuing your investigation without any coordination with the other investigations into a related crime.
That is correct, commissioners.
Can we then move on to the audit trail? And can you discuss the audit provisions in the FSL system and the ABIS system that you describe from paragraph 28 onwards?
Commissioner, with regard to the IBIS system, for you to be able to gain access into the system, you must be registered with your biometric. In other words, if you are not registered with your biometric, you will not be able to access the IBIS system. And that is so that we can be able to know what happened on the system, because the system keeps logs, who logged on at what time and what happened. So it's for that purpose, track and trace. With the FSL system, you must apply for a password for you to gain access into the system. The password expires after certain days, and every time you must renew your password. So again, the passwords, no one is allowed to use someone's password. So there's in order to ensure credibility of the systems.
And so at any given time, you can see the audit trail, both in FSL and in ABIS, of who did what when.
That is correct, commissioners.
And is it possible to modify the audit trail? Does anyone have administrator rights that enable them to override or add anything to the audit trail?
That is not possible, commissioners, because you will see whoever worked on the case, the logs will show. So you'll still know if there was anyone who tried to do something on the case or whatever on the system.
My question is slightly different. Does anyone have the IT capability or the IT authority to modify an audit trail? Is there anyone with system permissions that would enable them to modify an audit trail?
Commissioner, the FSL system is managed by TMS. This is the administrator of the system. So they are administering the system. They are the ones that authorizes passwords. So if there are any audit trails that needs to be done, they will be the people that can answer in that regards.
And who are TMS?
Is the division within the Forensic Science Laboratory that is responsible for technology management system.
And do they manage both the FSL system and the ABIS system in relation to audit trails?
That is correct, Commissioners.
Thank you, Brigadier. We're now finally, with a lot of background, going to get into the audit trail and the events relating to the Vereniging and Bramley cases. But I want to assure the commissioners that the background is very important, because one does need to understand in some detail how the system works before one goes into the specifics. So let's move to the ballistics analysis in both Vereniging and Bramley, and can you take up what you describe from paragraph 31 of your statement?
Commissioners, on the 17th of April 2024, a murder crime was reported and attended by Captain Mahotlo and Warrant Officer Masha, who were both on standby on that day. The members were called by Warrant Officer Malan, an SAPS official from LCRC, to attend the crime scene. The crime scene involved a murder of Mr. Swart, who was shot while entering the premises of his employer. A murder case 275 of 4 of 2024 was registered for the Vereniging case. Paragraph 32, while Captain Mahotlo and Warrant Officer Masha were busy processing the crime scene in Vereniging, it was reported that suspects who shot and killed the deceased were arrested in Bramley, and that the suspects were found in possession of firearms, ammunition, and cartridges. Case number 149 of 04-2024 was registered under the Bramley case.
And Brigadier, can I just stop you here? So Captain Mahotlo and Warrant Officer Masha were the members who were on standby, and they had the cell phone that whoever was at a crime scene was instructed to call. So that's the basis on which they were called out to the crime scene.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And in terms of your policies, once the suspects from Vereniging had been arrested in Bramley with possession of weapons, your policy dictated that those same two who had been assigned to the crime scene would now be assigned to the ballistics in relation to the Bramley arrests.
That is correct, Commissioners.
If you can continue then.
The following entries were recorded on FSL system regarding the Bramley and the Vereniging case. First, we start with the Bramley. Lab number 19304/2024 was generated for the Bramley case. The following two entries were recorded on the FSL system for the Bramley case. The first entry, this relates to the firearms that were recovered when the arrest was made. And this entry was assigned to Captain Makgotla on the 20th of May 2024. He analyzed the case, and the case was finalized on the system on the 6th of June 2024.
Can I ask, what would the finalization of the case on the system, what would have had to have happened for the case to have been finalized on 6 June?
Commissioner, it means the case, the case has gone through the stages of being analyzed, being reviewed, being archived. Then the reviewer will then finalize on the system. It means the examination or analysis on this case is finalized.
Finalized, it's been reviewed, the 212 has now gone off to the investigating officers.
That is correct, commissioners.
Second entry.
Then the very same case the very same case was again at a later stage, this year not long, on the 3rd of June. Again, an entry was registered on the very same case of Bramley with a request from the investigating officer. His request was that, can you please check if this Bramley case is linked to a number of cases that they were given. I didn't give those cases here. But the request was that, can you check if this Bramley case is linked to these specific cases? And that case was then assigned to one Captain Mkhatshwa on the 3rd of June, 2025. And he completed the examination, and the case was closed on the system on the 26th of June, 2025.
And again, what would have happened, and we'll hear from Captain Mkhatshwa either later today or tomorrow, but what would have happened by 26 June is he would have conducted his microscope analyses of the of the Bramley exhibits against cases other than Vereniging. He would have reached his conclusions. He'd have prepared a 212 affidavit. Before he prepared the 212, he would have reached his conclusions. An independent analyst would have looked at the exhibits that he looked at, would have said, yes, I see a match here. No, I don't see a match there. I agree with your conclusions. He would have prepared a 212 affidavit. That 212 affidavit would have been reviewed by a reviewer. It would then have been signed off, sent back to the investigating officer who made the request to him, and on 26 June, the entry would have been completed on the FSL system.
That is correct, commissioners.
If you can then take us to Vereniging.
So before you do that,
yes,
the timeline in 35.1 is that your standard timeline. So the entry is on the 23rd of April, and then a few days short of a month, on the 20th of May, the entry is then assigned to Captain Makgotla, and then it is completed about a week or 2 weeks later on the 6th of June. Is that the standard timeline?
Commissioner, I will say that we have spoken about the request to expedite cases. So on this particular case, there were requests from the investigating officers. Yes.
Is the answer that this is in fact not the standard? You usually take longer than this.
Considering the table that I've indicated, the commissioner is not. These cases were prioritized.
Yeah. And the same for the second entry, those timelines. It's because there's been those expedition requests.
That's true, commissioners. That's true. The second entry was recorded. Oh, I'm now on the Vereniging case, 36. In terms of the Vereniging case, lab number 193051 of 2024 was generated. This lab number was generated on the 23rd of April 2024 in Pretoria. And it relates to the receipt of cartridge cases which were collected on the scene of Vereeniging where the murder took place. There were cartridge cases on the scene. Those cartridge cases were then assigned to Captain Makgotle on the 8th of May 2024. He examined the case and issued a 212, and the case was completed on the system on the 6th of June 2024. Now, his 212 statement was dated the 24th of May 2024. That is when he completed his examination.
Now, can I again stop here? So his affidavit would have been completed on 24 May, but for this, sorry, would have been deposed to on 24 May. But for the entry to have been completed on the system by 6 June, the affidavit would have had to have been reviewed and okayed, as it were, by a reviewer.
That is correct, Commissioner. You will hand in your case for review today. Depending on the availability of the reviewer or the volume of work that they have, they might be able to review next week, Friday. But your date on the report maybe is for today, the 27th. And the reviewer only get time to review it on the 31st. So there's no correlation between the date of when the report was signed off and the date on which it was finalized on the FSL system, commissioners.
But before 6 June, a reviewer would have had to have looked at that affidavit.
Certainly, when they finalized on the system, it means they've looked in that report first.
If you can take us then to the second entry.
Then on the 25th of April 2024, in Pretoria again, a further entry was registered, which relates to now a bullet. No, which relates to the crime scene that Warrant Officer Makgotle and Marshal would have attended. Then he was assigned to this crime scene on the 20th of May 2024. He completed it on the 15th of May 2024, and it was finalized on the FSL system on the 27th May 2024. This one relates to the crime scene report of the Vereeniging murder scene.
And again, in terms of policy, that would have to have been assigned to Captain Makgotle.
That is correct, commissioners.
The third entry.
Then later on, around August, a bullet was sent to the lab, which was retrieved from the deceased, which comes from the mortuary. And it was registered on the 12th of August 2024 in Pretoria. And it was assigned to Captain Makgotle again as a further entry on the 11th of October 2024. And he completed it on the 14th of October 2024. And on the 23rd of October 2024, it was finalized on the system. I must just, by way of comment, just make the following remarks with regard to this bullet, especially the date, which I want investigating officers also to take note. The incident happened on the 17th of April 2024. Now, one expects that the deceased will be taken to the mortuary where autopsy will be completed and the bullet will be retrieved. But when we check the date when the bullet was brought to the lab, it was almost after 3 months. Now, one asks himself, where was that bullet between that period? If the incident took place on the 17th of May 17th of April 2024, but the bullet was only handed over to the laboratory on the 12th of August 2024. May, June, July, August. So those are some of the things that also puts us under pressure, because when the IO wants the report, they will not consider the part that they played in order to delay the case. They will want you to finalize the case now. But when you check the timelines, surely the autopsy was not performed around August. I don't think so. So surely the bullet was lying somewhere, and someone delayed to deliver it in the lab. Just by way of passing, commissioners.
Have you established when the post-mortem was conducted?
I'm just working on the timelines. If the deceased was shot on the 17th of April, surely it could not have taken 3 months for autopsy to be conducted on the body to remove the bullet. Thank you, commissioners.
We're now going to move to the ABIS acquisition for the Vereniging and Bramley cases, and this is quite a complicated section. Chair, we're at 5-1. I wonder if it might make sense to take the adjournment now rather than to start and then interrupt this section.
Let us adjourn and resume at 2 p.m.
And good afternoon, everybody. You are listening to Update at Noon, and interesting SAPS ballistics expert testifying today before the Madlanga Commission on its 18th day. And this, of course, is to continue some of the corroboration of evidence that has already been led before the Madlanga Commission. And it's going to be interesting to hear exactly how all of this came together, because you would have heard from the previous witnesses last week, witnesses A, B, and C, where they spoke about what happened, the crime scene, and how they actually found some of those casings from the crime scene in Vereniging at the house in Q, where they actually traced the alleged suspects too. And now this speaks to some of that evidence of the ballistics that were actually performed. And also, I suppose, perhaps one thing they didn't take into account was one of the bullets in the body of the deceased, which was then matched. And interesting also, in terms of listening to the explanation of how the system works, how the system automatically links hits from different crime scenes if they are entered onto the system and they are a match. Well, with that, thank you so much for being with us this afternoon. This, of course, continues. You can go onto the SABC streaming sites. You can just go onto the landing page, www.sabcnews.com, and you can stream from there. Alternatively, you can go and download the SABC Plus app. That will also give you the option, because we have pop-up channels there for the Madlanga Commission, the ad hoc commission, and of course you'll have options to watch other streamed events as well. With that, we say goodbye from the Updated Noon team, and you'll have your latest news on the other side of this.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Hey there. Need to know your TV license balance but don't want to wait? No sweat. Just send a quick SMS with your ID or TV license number to 44210. Remember, standard SMS rates apply. And presto, your balance pops right up anytime, anywhere. It's as easy as pie. So why procrastinate? Give it a try and get your info in a flash. T's and C's apply.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAfm to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Design meets downtime on My Design Rules this Monday evening at 7 on S3. This week, our duos are challenged to create a family space for relaxing and connecting. Expect bold ideas, creative risks, and design drama along the way. Whose design will make the judges feel right at home, and whose will leave them out in the cold. Open up your everyday to the extraordinary with My Design Rules. Monday evenings at 7, repeat Saturdays at 2, and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on S3.
SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
On the top stories, another suspect arrested in the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting, and SAPS forensic lab resources under scrutiny at Madlanga Commission. For SAfm News, I'm Ondalambana, and a very good day. Gauteng police have apprehended a second suspect linked to the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting, which occurred earlier this month. Gauteng police spokesperson Brenda Moridili says the suspect was arrested during a tracing operation in Zitobeni Township on the 24th of October. Police recovered an unlicensed firearm with field of serial numbers during the arrest. Moridili says the first suspect, Silene Mosankwesu Xulu, and who was arrested on 21st October, is still in custody and he is due to appear before court on Thursday, while the second suspect is to appear today. Limited resources at the SAPS Forensic Laboratory Services have come under the spotlight at the Madlanga Commission in Pretoria. Head of the Ballistics Section at the Police Forensic Science Laboratory, Brigadier Meshak Mkabela, has testified that the staff shortages are crippling operations. He says the laboratory pays over 3.8 million rand a month to maintain its ballistics system, but only half of its workstations can operate because of a shortage of analysts. Here's Mkabela responding to Chief Evidence Leader Advocate Matthew Chasclerson on the issue.
Commissioners, we call that the service level agreement. We pay a monthly fee of over 3.8 million per month for the maintenance of the system, commissioners.
So you're paying a monthly fee of 3.8 million a month, but you can really only use half the capacity of that system because you only can operate 4 of the 8 input centers with your current staff.
As it will be outlined later with the figures, unfortunately, that is the reality, commissioners.
ANC NEC member Mondli Gungubele says ANC members must embrace the Madlanga Commission and seek to learn from what comes out of it. The Madlanga Commission is investigating allegations of corruption amongst politicians, the judiciary and criminals made by KZN and Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Gungubele delivered the keynote address at a ceremony to commemorate struggle stalwarts O.R. Tambo and his wife Adelaide at the Tambo Memorial Site in Wattville, Ekurhuleni. He was acting on behalf of Deputy President Paul Mashatile, who was unable to attend the wreath-laying ceremony.
Our founding principle of this constitution, which was adopted under the leadership of the ANC, ensured transparency and accountability. That's why Madlanga Commission is there. It's because ANC wanted it to be there through the nature of the constitution is adopted. So we should not, therefore, be angry at the manifestation of the constitution that we adopted. Now, we may say Hey, we wish this was not there. It's there now. My late elder brother would have taught me that you can't change facts, but you can learn from them. We are not going to change the Madlanga facts, but the true revolutionaries are going to learn from them and ask a fundamental question. How did we get here?
Western Cape Social Development Minister Yakolante has urged for stronger local action and collaboration in the fight against human trafficking. He was speaking at the West Coast District Municipalities Human Trafficking Conference in Morrisburg. The event brought together government officials, justice representatives, community leaders and advocacy organizations to confront the growing human rights crisis. Lante says awareness and unity remains vital in protecting victims.
Our staff also do joint operations with law enforcement and justice authorities to safeguard victims and provide the necessary psychosocial support. But we know these are just the reported cases, the tip of the iceberg. Many victims remain unseen, unheard, and in need of rescue. This reality compels us to act with greater urgency, and awareness is our first line of defense. Trafficking thrives where people are unaware of the risks and warning signs.
The United Nations has called for safe passage for trapped civilians out of Al-Fashir in Sudan after the paramilitary rapid support forces claimed they had seized full control of the city. Sudan's 2-year war has killed tens of thousands of people and displaced nearly 12 million. The BBC's Barbara Platt-Asher has the details.
Al-Fashir is the last army foothold in the western region of Darfur, besieged for 18 months as the RSF advanced. Hundreds of thousands have fled, both sides accused of war crimes in this conflict. But 250,000 civilians, half of them children, remain trapped inside, many of them starving, dying from hunger. The RSF say they are liberating a city they've been brutally attacking. How they treat civilians now is key. They've been accused of ethnic cleansing.
Recapping the top story, Gauteng police have apprehended a second suspect linked to the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting, which occurred earlier this month. I'm on Dilambano for SAfm News Headlines at 1:30.
It's jam-packed with pressure on the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7:30 on SABC2 in the first elimination challenge as the contestants learn how to make their own jams and preserves from scratch. Who will spread the love and who will get themselves in a sticky situation? That's the Tastemaster Junior, Tuesday evenings at 7:30, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAfm to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This October month, SAfm shines a light on mental health awareness. This month, we bring you conversations that break the stigma, encourage care, and provide strategies to protect your mental well-being. Because it's okay not to be okay. And together, we can build a healthier tomorrow. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Gordon Ramsay is back, and your favorite kitchen disasters are still somehow in business. New season, same confused chefs, terrifying walk-ins, and enough grease to fry your Wi-Fi. Watch as Gordon tries to fix the unfixable with nothing but sheer rage, British sarcasm, and an iron stomach. Kitchen Nightmares Season 8, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. on S3. Come for the food, stay for the emotional damage.
Don't miss your chance to shape the future. The Limpopo Investment Conference 2025. Limpopo Rising, Africa's new investment frontier. Your gateway to unparalleled opportunities from October 30 and 31st in Polokwane. Seize the groundbreaking prospects in mining, agriculture, tourism, and green energy. Connect with global visionaries and investors driving Africa's economic boom. Limpopo's wealth is waiting. Be part of the rise. Join the conversation on lic.lcxonline.co.za. Invest in Limpopo. Invest in success.
The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Alrighty, good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. I hope you've had a great weekend, managed to get some much needed rest and relaxation, and also to take your mind off everything that, had transpired last week. We just bombarded with so much in the news that the 2 days for us to recharge, reset, and reassess are much, much needed. I don't know about you, but I'm even starting to have, yeah, I don't want to say PTSD because we don't take these things, we don't take mental health lightly here. So we don't use these terms just all willy-nilly. But I'm really starting to have some kind of anxiety. Even had some bad dreams on the weekend. Ew, it was just a lot. But we are here for a brand new week. And in this hour, we're going to maximize all that we possibly can. We're going to be having a conversation around World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. I didn't know such a day existed, but I guess we have a day for almost everything. So we have one of our SABC archivists, and Ulirato will tell me if I can call it an archivist, or perhaps there's another term that she's that she prefers. We're going to talk about that, and then on the other side of 1:30, we're going to look at the grieving brain at work, what every leader must know about such. I'll tell you what else is coming up later on. Yes, we've rejigged the clock a little bit today. Normally, we'd be starting with Usbahle Mota, but she's on day off today, and we still will bring you an update of everything that's happening at the Madlanga Commission, but we'll just bring it to you a little bit later. Let's take a quick pause. We'll come back and we'll get into conversation with my guests.
SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. This October month, SAFM joins the world in breast cancer awareness. We bring you conversations that highlight the importance of early detection, survivor stories that inspire hope, and expert advice that could save lives. Together, let's spread awareness and support the fight against breast cancer. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The Full Circle with Bridget Masinga, Monday to Friday, 1 to 3 p.m.
Alrighty, we're talking World Day of Audiovisual Heritage with my guest today. We've got SABC Sound Archives, Lerato Siuhladi. Siuhladi. It's the Tladi part that's getting me.
That's a sort of name. Maybe that's why.
It's my tongue. It's my tongue. And for Diloro, a little bit easier on that Nguni tongue. How are you doing, Mpo?
Thank you. How are you?
Fabulous. And Mpo is with the SABC TV Programs Archives. So, Lerato, you were saying, I can call you archivist.
Yes, you may.
Okay.
That is my profession.
That is the profession.
That's
Now,
correct.
tell me, how does one actually, before we even get into the day, because I didn't realize 27th of October is World Day for Audiovisual Heritage, but how does one eventually get into this archiving space? Is it something that, I have to go do history, major in history in school? Tell me the journey.
All right, for me, I didn't know about this archivist position before, didn't know there's a career for archivists. So when I started, I was like, no, I just want to study media and journalism. Then my sister was like, no, you need to do this LIS profession, the Library Information Science. So I found out at the University of Limpopo that you can actually study the Library Information Science. Then you can either be a records manager, a librarian, or an archivist. So it's actually a profession.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I mean, is it something that's enjoyable? I don't want to say fun, enjoyable. I presume there's a lot of meticulousness involved in it.
There is. Because I remember, because I wanted to be in front of the mic before, but then I realized, no, this thing is not for me. The Bridget can do it. So I just want to be behind the scenes. So that's when I found out you can actually be an archivist and be safekeeping, all the broadcasting, the recordings that are going on air. And what is the question again?
I'm just trying to gauge. There's some, as you said, you wanted to be behind the mic, and our days are different. No 2 days are the same. Today I have to pronounce Lorato's surname. Tomorrow I just have to say Zuma. No 2 days are the same for us. And I wonder for you, is there a sense of excitement and a sense of challenge that comes with being an archivist?
Yes, there is, because for me, for now, we need to keep up with the Madlanga Commission and the ad hoc committee, and there's something happening every single day. So that becomes challenging, and then it keeps your mind refreshed because you're looking forward to another story, another day. So you always need to be abreast with what's happening in and out of South Africa, the trending news, and so forth. Because, everything that is broadcasted, it's tomorrow's history. So
Yes.
people will be looking for that tomorrow in future. So it's my duty as an archivist to ensure that someone who's looking for it in future may be able to retrieve it. For instance, they might be looking for this for auditing purposes, for evidence purposes, just to check if nothing was omitted. So they come back to the archives to say, can we please have this material so we can have a look at it and see if everything was captured correctly and you didn't omit anything, because
Yeah.
our duties as an archivist, we don't omit anything, but then we do capture and preserve everything as it is, as broadcasted.
And then for you, Paul, you at the TV side, you had TV programs archives.
Yes,
And how did you find yourself there?
Well, I came through as an intern. Basically, I came here because there was stock taking, and I just never left.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as a profession, as Lerato alluded, you do study information sciences, technology. So yeah, there are people who are dedicated in this space. I'm an IT technician by profession, but I studied IT, but I found myself in the
this
archive space, and
Yeah.
it's a very interesting place to be in, actually.
Well, I mean, what makes it so for you? And I wonder if there's also been through your years here, there's been a merger of your IT qualification with what you do in the archive space.
Yes, so no 2 days are the same as an archivist. I mean, you get to do requests, and basically what requests are is if people ask you for footage. I was on show X on such a day. I'd like to show my children that I was on Note for Note or whatever. So there is the historic um, side of it, and also there's programming. So people come through and ask us, okay, what do you have at the archives that we can play so that we don't have to repeat him the whole time. So we do go on a journey of discovery, and there's also the fact that while you're capturing, you can also view and see the different programs that are out there, the 50/50s. So there's plenty aspects of a challenge when you are at archives.
I love the fact that they're both here because I've actually done quite a bit of work in my early years for SABC that I don't have in my personal archives. So,
As long as you remember the dates.
I will remember. Let's take a quick pause and then we'll be right back.
Africa Update on SAfm.
In your historical archive, a significant day this was in 1945, 24 October 1945. What happened on this day?
Today I looked at 8 years of my Motswako born and raised hip hop musician Jabulani Chaba, HP Tambo, who passed away on this day at the age of 38.
Gilitle laka hiti. You're supposed to say fly like Serantabule.
I don't know that.
You're lost. You're lost, my man. You only know Posoki man.
Posoki Mzuli stands at the mountain for more.
That is Super Mandula there with the Africa Update, and of course that historical archive that got me going there for a while.
Tulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Bridget Mazinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All righty, we've got Lerato Siutlwaudi as I try to get my tongue to get to grips with her surname. And Mpho Delora coming through. They are both with SABC Archives programs and sound, respectively. And today we're having a conversation around World Day for Audiovisual Heritage. And this is an initiative by UNESCO and the Coordinating Council of Audiovisual Archives Association. And this is a special year because audiovisual archives around the world commemorate the 20th anniversary of the day and raising awareness of the importance and, of course, the urgency as well of protecting audiovisual materials to ensure that their long-term availability and accessibility continues. And I think that's kind of where our conversation has been centered around is the important job that both of them have in preserving the history of the SABC, but also the history of South Africa. And I can imagine how vast those archives are. When you guys walk through those aisles, because you know in the passage here, I don't know if it's your department, Lerato, that we walk past on
It
our way to
is
these studios.
because it's the media library downstairs, then
Yes,
upstairs it's the sound archives.
because I often have a glimpse and I just see like shelves and aisles of things that look like tapes. I should come and
Yes, you
visit
should. And take a tour.
and take a tour. Do you feel a sense of responsibility around archiving, more specifically for the public broadcaster, because of the history that the institution holds?
Yes, we do. Because, for instance, in the sound archives, we have material ranging from the 1930s to present. So that's a lot of material that we have. That's a mine of archive content that we have. So it is our responsibility to ensure that we are able to digitize on demand, because currently that's what we're doing until we get a go ahead with the digitization project. So our worry is that most of the materials that we're using to digitize, it's going absolute. So, and the materials that we have back in the days are so fragile, and we might lose those historic content that we have if we're not pushing the digitization. So that's one thing that the World Audiovisual Heritage Day and the UNESCO is advocating for.
So how quickly do we need to get that digital turnaround going?
We have actually started digitizing the programs. We're on the third year of our digitization project. We've digitized 60% of the archive. Just to give you an idea, the last stock count we had about 450,000 tapes. So yeah, that's a lot.
That's just generations, and is it dingo?
It's everything.
Okay.
It is everything. That is from a program perspective. Unfortunately, we don't have somebody here from the news archives, but there's a different archive for storing like your news stories that are on TV. So there's TV news archives and there's TV programs archives.
Yes.
So I am from basically the entertainment side, where is your soapies, your documentaries, those types, your magazine programs.
Yes.
Those are the types of programs that we are custodians of. So we've digitized everything that is from the 70s, which are 1-inch tapes and other tapes that are called beta cams. And we're putting everything onto a server now, and we're about 60% done. And you asked the question earlier on about where does archiving meet IT? Well, now everything with everything going digital, it does help to have a good knowledge when it comes to knowing your way around a computer, basically.
Absolutely. Now tell me this, are you also, because you mentioned taking everything digital and then also storing it, hard drives, and I'm sure there's a big hard drive room in these big buildings of ours. But then I wonder, how do you then back that up? Because I'm just a layman's person, right? I've had my external hard drive crash and I lost years and years of photos and videos. And then I've had my entire work history being erased as well. It's so sad. It was so sad. I completely don't exist digitally from a work CV perspective. So how do you ensure that that stuff is also backed up? Because things happen.
Things do happen, but we've got a very sophisticated server here at the SABC.
Mm.
So for everything that is digitized, it goes onto our system, onto our server, and that actually has a backup.
Okay.
So we only use one version,
Mhm.
but then the other version is there. There's a
Okay.
safety. And once something is digitized, we don't just throw it away.
Mm.
The tape goes back into the storeroom. Our storerooms are cooled because the tapes do get a quote unquote disease
Mhm.
called vinegar syndrome. They become tight and all of that. They are old and sensitive. They
Mm.
eventually get this vinegary smell, which means that they become brittle and they snap. So
Oh.
before we do digitize the film reels, they do get baked first, which is a very interesting process. And then after that, it gets digitized in real time.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you can't fast forward the process. So at a time we digitize about 8 tapes and 4 film reels at a time.
At a time.
Yeah,
And when we say at a time, what are we talking? A day, a week?
at a go, at a go.
Wha-
So at the same time.
Okay.
So right now, as we're
Mhm.
speaking, there'll be 8 tapes in each machine, and then 4 film reels on each machine as well, going straight to the server. At least that's the only way that we can speed up the process by doing more quantities.
Mm. And then for you guys, Lerato, is it as complicated?
Yes, it is. But then with regards to the archives, because we have a backlog, a large backlog of reel-to-reel tapes. So as he was saying, there's a disease for tapes. So usually we have like a rewinding project so that we ensure that we extend the period of the tapes. And then we do have like a verification process whereby we digitize on demand or as per the content that's on the tape so that we ensure it's backed up on our server. It's digitally so that we don't lose it. And we're not throwing anything away. So
Mm.
once it's digitized, we still keep our tapes in the storage.
Okay. All right. And then how do people access these things, right? Because you both spoke about it's there. I can come and say,
Oh,
hey, I
yeah.
did
And I wanted to talk about that because with regards to the sound collection, I know even with TV and with programs, so our content is open to the public, it's open to the media companies.
Mhm.
Whoever wants to do a documentary, maybe there's a certain content they're looking for, they
Mm.
need to do research on a particular person, they're more than welcome to come and then they can reuse our content for rebroadcast.
Mm.
Then they will get licensing. So they can contact us, then we can refer them to the sales content department. So beside that, we also have clients that come that say, no, I was listening to Bridget today. I love the show. Can I purchase it? And then they go ahead and buy it for their own personal use. Then we have students that come as well just to do research. But then there's a little fee that they pay. There's a fee that they pay so they can come through and check us out. Because for the sound archives, we are available on the website, so they can just go through there and check who do they want to speak to. Then we can refer them to the relevant departments to speak to.
Is it a tedious process for people? Because you guys make it sound like it's very simple. Like I can just
No,
come
it's
to
not
SABC
simple.
and be like, oh, on this day, this
You come
interview.
by an appointment, you don't just come.
I mean, you're making it sound so simple, but is it a bit of a bit of a process? And I can imagine also because there's a lot of history that's being sort of documented here, and that you guys are in charge of. There's probably a lot of red tape as to how a person accesses your
Correct.
archives.
Look, as long as a program is what we call commissioned,
Hmm.
meaning it belongs to the SABC. As long as that material belongs to the SABC and you've got enough information. I was on Noot vir Noot round about 1993. The presenter was so and so. The guest on the show was so and so. It makes it much easier to find, and it's not that tedious, trust me. You just put it on an email or you come through to the SABC and we'll help you as far as we can. A lot of the time we do find the programs. If we can't, sometimes someone will request a program that was licensed to the SABC for a certain amount of time. Those types of programs, unfortunately, we can't sell because they don't
Okay,
belong to
yes.
us. But anything that belongs to us, I will find it and we'll sell it to you.
I mean, what's the going rate for for people? I know it varies because you mentioned students who want to access stuff maybe for academics and research, corporates that want for their own thing, documentarians, etc., etc., etc. But what is the going rate for getting a TV drama?
I'm not sure about the TV drama, but I'll just make an estimate because I was
Yes.
part of the PBS radio station in the Free State. So I know usually the shows that I was doing, it was like your religious content. So someone would come looking for Pastor so and so. The interview was like 5 minutes. Usually it's like 60 rand. So that's not a lot of money for someone. And sometimes for the news interviews, then yeah, the price it's quite a bit steep. Yeah, but yeah. So it's not a lot of money.
No, I was
I think it
expecting a
also
lot of
depends
money.
on what kind of content is it and what do you use it for. Because
Mhm.
if you're using it for personal use, then the price is quite a bit lower. But
Yes.
once you're using it for repurposing and recommercial,
Yeah.
for rebroadcasting, then yeah,
I can
we'll be
imagine.
charging you because
Of
you need to
course, yes.
license it for a certain period. You don't own that completely once you buy it.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting. You know what? We must visit you guys there in the archiving departments once upon a time. What do in our last 30 seconds? I mean, what do our listeners need to know about the history and the heritage of SABC's archives?
The SABC's got a very rich history. We do encourage the public to come through and purchase our material for any purposes that they would like.
Okay.
Okay, in closing, I would say the institutions that are offering the LIS, the Library and Information Science, the archives, they can come and make sure that their students come and learn more about our facilities, what we provide, and what line of profession they want to go through. So they're more than welcome to come and visit us through the learning and development. But if you're unsure, you can email me.
Basically, Lorraine, just like email me before you come through. Lorraine and Paul, thank you so much for the conversation today. Both of them in the archive departments of radio and TV, respectively. And maybe one day we'll take our social media crew and come down there and have a look at everything that they've got. It's 1:30. It's time for us to catch up with the headline news. I think Ondelambana is standing by. And then we'll come back on the other side. We'll have a conversation around the grieving brain at work.
Thank you, Bridget. On the news headlines, the Madlanga Commission has been told of a massive backlog of firearm-related cases. Head of the ballistics section at the Police Forensic Science Laboratory, Brigadier Mishak Mkabela, is testifying at the commission. The Democratic Alliance in the Free State says most municipalities in the province are facing financial collapse. The party says local councils are struggling to collect rates and taxes from businesses and residents. And Gauteng police have apprehended a second suspect linked to the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting, which occurred earlier this month. Gauteng police spokesperson Brenda Moridili says the suspect was arrested during a tracing operation. The full update follows at the top of the hour.
You are listening to The Full Circle. This October month, SAfm focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAfm brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to The Full Circle.
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAfm.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on The Full Circle.
All right, it's just gone 1:30, and we're catching up with our next guest now. Anya van Beek joins us, and we're talking the grieving brain at work and what every leader must know. And Anya is a talent and culture strategist, a lead and HR expert. So grief is one of those things that walks into the workplace quietly. Unlike most things at the workplace, it doesn't clock in, it doesn't announce itself on a Monday morning meeting. It just shows up really in a variety of ways, whether we're talking missed deadlines, whether we're talking glazed over eyes, or perhaps even unexpected emotional outbursts. Anya, how are you doing this afternoon?
Hello, Bridget. How lovely to talk to you again. I'm well, thank you. And you?
So lovely to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for the time. Um, I mean, that's the thing, right? Is that grief is something that I've often said this, that grief is something you learn to live with. It's almost like something that never goes away. It's just somehow your body and your mind eventually learn how to hold it.
Absolutely. Yes. That's such a beautiful way of looking at that. And it's so true. And what I often see is that leaders and managers in the workplace feel so uncomfortable when they observe, as you mentioned, some of these behaviors and they're not sure how to address
Absolutely. And it's unavoidable because we all have a lived human experience. So at some point, you're going to suffer loss. You're going to go through something traumatic. You're going to have periods of grief, and they're going to come with you into your professional space. So how do we begin to tackle it in that essence?
Yeah, I think that's such an important question. And I think what I would like to start, or where I would like to start, is just to reflect on, if you think of the leadership, the different styles and what we have seen over the years and over the decades, is that nowadays a different approach is required. And I don't know if you can recall that there was a stage where, well, at least when I started to work, people say be professional at work. And when you be professional, it's almost as if they to leave emotion at the door and then enter the work and work and then leave the as you said, the fear.
Yeah.
And I think managers nowadays need to remember that being professional doesn't necessarily mean leave the emotions, at and that takes a different type of leadership, one that's human focused, that's understanding what the team members are going through. And I think that is the first part that I want to say to leaders is that when we mention professional, have the individual in mind. And especially during a time of grief, it's often people, they avoid the topic, they talk around it versus being there and being present and even normalize, if it's relevant, talking about the situation that the team member is struggling with and creating that space for them, just to feel I'm heard, I'm seen, I'm respected.
And when we speak about the grieving brain at work,
Yeah.
are we speaking in essence to some of what we've just alluded to?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we talk about the grieving brain, and let me just give you a little bit of insight into why I wrote this article or why I think it's a topic. I've been through a very personal chapter beginning of the year. My dad passed, and as someone that is mature and actually doing leadership development, I was quite surprised as to the depth of emotion that I was feeling. I was sitting and I thought, wow, this must be really challenging for someone that has a full-time work that needs to go back to the work and just give the people a little bit of insight that when the brain is grieving, I think of our human brains, we wired for connection. And we have those maps that, we have certain, we almost wanting to, almost expecting, see or whoever has passed. And that's sometimes difficult. It's a very personal at times for that individual. So if you ask about the breathing brain, I think the easiest to explain it to consider that grief activates the responses that say there's danger, there's fear. And what we know is that when our brain is scanning the environment and it's picking up fear, the hormones that is activated and released makes us not focus or not able to focus on problem solving. It might be that scattered thinking, etc. So us to understand that grief handles it the same as any other threat. And when cortisol is released, our thinking, thriving brains cannot optimally function. And that's the first thing that we need to remember. Now, obviously, as you rightfully pointed out, time is and we get used not having that individual, the present. But I think in the work environment, for the individual and to know that it takes time. Because often, I mean, if you think of South Africa, we have 3 days or sometimes a little bit more, 5 days family responsibility. And thinking that that's the time it would take, to get back to work and to be normal and productive, then it's actually a lot longer than that. So I think it's just that awareness of having grace with yourself and being supportive to the people in your team.
Absolutely. And we've just got under 3 minutes, Anya. You mentioned some pointers here, and we've touched a little bit about HR and business leaders and how they can be a little bit conscious, perhaps. You also mentioned that folks shouldn't disappear, and that they must keep the structure, albeit gently.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Bridget, because when there's chaos, the little bit of teams that we have supports us as well. And I think it starts with having that conversation with your team member about what feels manageable, what are wins that we can focus on, what are the structure that we can put in place at work to support you. I think another tip I want to leave is where possible, don't rush the return. Now, I'm not suggesting that someone needs to get home for weeks at end. I just, what I mean by that is just how you can bring in flexibility into the equation. Perhaps it can be flexible working hours. Perhaps it can be remote more than usual. Remote working options can even be adjusted to workload. Or, giving them access to employee assistance programs. So it might even be just educating your managers. So you know what, when someone in your team is going through this is more or less how we suggest you navigate conversations, or this is what you need to remember. And that's I think being present, seeing how you can accommodate them, and just be a little bit flexible and don't, just say, this is how we do them. Then you need back after days. Just, as you said, just be a little bit of be gentle and accommodating.
Absolutely. Some sage advice there. Anya van Beck, thank you so much for the time. And Anya is a talent and culture strategist as well as an HR expert. Hopefully, if you're in a management position, you got a different perspective as to how to accommodate and also handle members of your team that could be going through a grieving period. It is 20 to 2 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break and then we come back on the other side and we touch base with what's been happening at the Madlanga Commission.
The Expresso Morning Show has been nominated in 5 categories in the 3rd Annual National Film and Television Awards South Africa.
It all happens on Saturday, the 22nd of November 2025 at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria. And public voting is open from the 13th of October to the 20th of November at midday.
So visit nationalfilmacademy.com, register and vote for Expresso Morning Show in all 5 categories.
Then, of course, catch us weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. right here on S3.
Extraordinary doesn't just happen, it's built brick by digital brick. Vodacom Business is helping shape South Africa's businesses from scalable cloud and AI that powers smarter decisions to IoT and connectivity that bridges every gap, backed by security that you can trust. So, together with business and government, Vodacom Business is building stronger industries and thriving communities, a nation ready to lead. And you can visit www.vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business, further together.
SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide. Bridget Masinga on SAfm.
Hey, by the way, before we catch up on the Madlanga Commission, remember that at the end of this week, on the 30th, we are hosting our annual breast cancer uh, round table. So the round table is happening at the Indaba Hotel Spa and Conference Center, and we'd love to help you come along if you are a survivor or perhaps you've gotten a diagnosis or you're part of a support system of somebody who was diagnosed with a breast cancer and you'd like to be part of the conversations on the day. You can RSVP with us at events@safm.co.za. That's events@safm.co.za. And we're going to be joined by Mom Lillian Dube on the day and a host of other phenomenal women as well. Kenny Mapanga is joining me now. Kenny is a SABC senior reporter, and we are catching up on the Madlanga Commission in absentia of Spatle Mota, who normally does this with me. How are you doing, Kenny?
Good afternoon to Bridget and
Thank you so much for the time. Much, much appreciated. So we're on day 19, and today a ballistics expert from the South African Police Services is testifying before the Commission of Inquiry. Tell us, what's been the highlights thus far from Brigadier Kabela?
Indeed. So the ballistic evidence is quite crucial for the commission ties into evidence by detectives on the ground and to see regarding the alleged experiences and the experience that accompanied the investigation. High level probe that linked alleged cartel members, mainly that became with the cat. So let's report having an alleged omission because there was positive review there of that, another able of the is able he that to edge experience to show that they did not come. Now, where the brigadier comes to great the can detail how this kind of magnitude of the work that they're facing in relation to lack that they have. So we share evidence that they're dealing with a much bigger load than any other country would outside of the US because of the number of firearms in the market. You have a system where they are receiving, there's an acquisition, but they're not doing the work in real time, meaning that you can have up to a year of a delay. And that's crucial for the IO to keep back because without this analysis, have a crime. A lot of organized crime cases, just like your isolated someone may have used firearms. The organized crime cases that you're dealing with, especially the ones that are before the Madanga Commission, are those where you will find firearms showing up in various different crime scenes and various different image hits. So you'll find that this is using the same modus operandi. So if those ballistics reports back in time, you can support the crime. So in the instance of Oman SWAT, it's that there were two crime scenes that you were dealing with outside of the actual forensic murder scene where he was actually gunned down in the hand of bullets. He moved to Barney, which is the second crime scene, and that became the second case number related to the clinical case. You can see that the exhibits, that firearms and used cartridges that were found in that particular Mercedes-Benz of phone had used cartridges that they could link to various crimes, not only the murder of a monster, several other murders in which
Absolutely. Kenny, I wish I had so much more time to unpack this because I think it speaks to so much more than just the accusations that have been leveled at the Madlanga Commission and at the ad hoc, but it speaks to the greater problems that SAPS is facing and the cries of so many South Africans whose cases have gone unsolved over the years. But that's all the time we have for today, unfortunately, because we have to get back into that commission. But I appreciate you coming through and giving us that rundown. That was Kenny Mapanga, SABC senior reporter. We are going to get into Kids Corner in just a moment, but first we're going to take a quick ad break and then we come back and we get into our kids programming, which will run up the hour of the show before we get into the top of the hour news with Ondela and then slide on right back into that Madlanga Commission.
Streaming Scheme Sum on the way to class.
Catching the Premier League while waiting for your order.
Jamming to Metro FM before you even get out of bed.
On SABC Plus, sinayo yonke into ifunayo. Your shows, your music, your way, anytime, anywhere. Zero subscription fees.
On your phone, tablet, or smart TV.
Download SABC Plus on iOS or Google Play Store.
This is Lungi on any other regular day.
This economy makes me post once a day. Who does that? Like, ew.
Now this is Lungi getting extra with the 20 gig summer deal for just 99 Rand.
I have so many gigs. I could even have a gig, guys. I'm going live every single day to me because guess
Extra your summer. Get 20 gigs plus 2 months free YouTube Premium and 100 Vodabucks. Exclusively on the Vodapay app. T's and C's apply. Further together. Vodacom.
SAfm's award-winning drama department presents to you the radio drama series Skyline.
Such cockpit medical emergency now.
Cabin crew to your stations.
Where the skies promise adventure, but behind the cabin doors, untold secrets are found.
Signage on cheap cards they installed like it's nothing.
Catch the radio drama series every Saturday at 9 p.m. on SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
The voice of Dr. T.T. Cholo opens a breathtaking journey of courage and memory. The Fatherland, directed by Aubrey Sikabi, combines music, movement, and a helicopter on stage. Experience it live at the South African State Theatre until the 9th of November, and tickets start from 150 Rand with special discounted prices. The Fatherland, where South Africa's story soars to new heights.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello friends and happy Saturday. Welcome to Know Your World. Today we're traveling all the way to Greece to learn about one of the most famous ancient places in the world, the Acropolis of Athens. Have you ever heard of the Acropolis of Athens? What do you think it is? Where do you think it's situated? The Parthenon is one of the most famous buildings on the Acropolis. What do you think it was used for? And if you could build your own special monument, what would it look like and what would it be for? All right, let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answers with the people next to you.
Hello guys, my name is Prophet David and I learned in Pakistan Public School at the age of 11. Today we'll be talking about the Acropolis of Athens. The Acropolis of Athens is an ancient stone citadel built on a high hill in Athens, Greece. One of its most famous structures is the Parthenon, a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena. The Acropolis was built over 2,400 years ago. and is known for its great historical, cultural, and religious importance. Many parts have been damaged by wars and time, but it remains one of the world's most famous ancient sites. If I could build a monument, I would create a modern spiral tower made of glass and stone that serves as a museum of peace with a quiet garden and at the top of for reflection from the sun. Thank you all.
Hello everyone, my name is Akana Takaram. I am 9 years old and I am in grade 4. Yes, I've heard of the Acropolis of Athens. It is an ancient group of buildings on a hill in Athens, Greece. The Parthenon is one of the famous buildings that it was used as a temple to honor the goddess Athena. I've heard that the Acropolis is very old and shows how clever and skilled the ancient Greeks were in building. If I could build my own special monument, it would be a tall, shining tower with gardens around it. It will be built to remind people about peace and working together.
Hello everyone. My name is Dudwe Sangandlu. I'm 14 years old and I go to Macaulay House School. No, I have actually never heard of the Acropolis of Athens. I think it is a man-made structure, or simply put, a building which has historic value and importance. The Acropolis of Athens is located on a rocky outcrop in the center of Athens, Greece. I think that the Parthenon was used as a gathering place long time ago. I found out that the Acropolis of Athens served as a natural fortress before becoming an artistic and religious center. If I could build my own special monument, it would be a skyscraper. On each level, you can see nature located in different parts of the world. From the sky to the flowers, every natural part of the earth's beauty will be made into a visual art.
Greetings to you all. My name is Helanda Mzobe. I am 12 years old. Yes, I've ever heard of the Acropolis of Athens. I think it looks like sort of a castle. It is situated in the city of Acropolis in Greece. The Parthenon was used for a church. Some things I've heard about the Acropolis is that a UNESCO World Heritage Site is made up of 3 temples dating back to the 5th century BC, the largest and most impressive temple in the Parthenon, dedicated to the Greek goddess Athena. She was the goddess of wisdom, courage, and strategic warfare in ancient Greek religion and mythology. If I could build my own special monument, I would build a shield cave. Thank you, everyone.
Hello, beautiful people of Mzansi. My name is Labanzi Slongwane. Yes, I've heard about the Acropolis of Athens. It is in the ancient citadel located on a rocky hill above the city of Athens in Greece. It contains several historic buildings, and the most famous one being the Parthenon. The Parthenon was used as a temple dedicated to the goddess Athena, who is believed to be the protector of Athens. Some things that I've heard about the Acropolis are that it shows the beauty of ancient Greek architecture, and it is one of the most visited historical sites in the world. The Acropolis of Athens is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The name Acropolis means high city. A very interesting fact is that a major explosion in 1687 during a war caused by gunpowder stored inside the Parthenon severely damaged the building's middle section. And in the early 19th century, Lord Elgin removed many sculptures from the Parthenon and brought them to England, where they are now displayed at the British Museum. If I could build my own special monument, it will be a tall glass surrounded by gardens, built to celebrate peace and unity among young people. And I just also really, really love flowers and the color green. I don't know why, it just gives me this feeling of calmness and being serene. So I think not only would it symbolize something beautiful, but it would also look really, really, really pretty. And it would be a place for people to come and just look at the beauty, relax, and learn about kindness or anything, to be honest. But I just want people to enter and be mesmerized and be astonished and be amazed.
Thank you, friends. It's always great to hear from you. Today, let's take a magical trip far away to Greece, to a place filled with ancient history and beautiful buildings, the Acropolis of Athens. The Acropolis is a very old and famous site that sits high on a rocky hill in Athens, the capital city of Greece. It's more than 2,400 years old. It's more than 2,400 years old. That's even older than your great-great-grandparents. Long ago, people built Acropolis as a place to honor their gods and goddesses, especially Athena, the goddess of wisdom and courage. One of the most famous buildings on the Acropolis is the Parthenon. This beautiful temple was built to honor Athena. It was made from marble and had tall, strong columns that still stand today. Many people believe it showed how talented and smart the ancient Greeks were in art, design, and building. When you look at the Acropolis, it's like stepping back in time. You can imagine people walking up the stone steps in long robes, carrying offerings, and celebrating their culture. The Acropolis tells stories about bravery, wisdom, and creativity that still inspires people all over the world today. And if you could build your own special monument, what would it look like? Maybe it would be a tower celebrating peace and kindness, a statue of your favorite hero, or even a colorful building that represents love and unity. The Acropolis reminds us that what we build and create also lasts for generations. Our actions, ideas, and kindness can become monuments in their own special way. So, friends, keep dreaming, building, and believing in the beauty of learning from history while creating your own story for the future. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives.
Outsurance is in the business of saving you money on your car insurance premium. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754.
Thank you, Bridget. On the top stories, Madlanga Commission hears of a backlog in firearm-related cases and another suspect arrested in the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting. For SAfm News, I'm Ondalambana, and a very good day. The Madlanga Commission has been told of a massive backlog of firearm-related cases. Head of the ballistics section at the Police Forensic Science Laboratory, Brigadier Meshek Mkabela, is testifying at the Commission. He says his unit is battling to keep up with the more than 41,000 cases awaiting analysis nationwide. Meshek told the Commission that the Pretoria lab alone is holding over 29,000 firearms, many linked to murder investigations. He also says limited staff and storage space is worsening delays in court cases.
Commissioner, the figure speaks for themselves. I always say if anyone wants to appreciate the level of high crime involving firearms in South Africa, one must just visit my strong room where I keep exhibits. Then one will appreciate that we are living in a dangerous country. Commissioner, at any given point, I have more than 29,000 firearms, and each of those firearms, a victim has been killed. And I only have 42 analysts to handle that volume of work.
The Democratic Alliance in the Free State says most municipalities in the province are facing financial collapse. The party says local councils are struggling to collect rates and taxes from businesses and residents. These municipalities report that they also have huge debt that they cannot collect. Authorities have been reporting their financials to the Provincial Legislature Oversight Committee. David van Voeren is a DA's committee member.
Almost all these municipalities are technically bankrupt and struggle to collect their debt and pay their creditors on time, which in return has an effect on service delivery. If we look at the ANC-run district municipalities, these municipalities use a huge part of their equitable share to pay salaries, between 70 to 90%, and this prevents the municipalities to fulfill their core mandate. It was also clear that the politicians and senior management are not being held accountable for poor service delivery.
A 41-year-old American citizen wanted for multiple crimes committed in the USA has been arrested at a local farm at Kanoneland near Kakamas in the Northern Cape. The man was arrested during a joint operation between SAPS and Interpol. He faces charges of kidnapping and other cases. Police spokesperson Mpile Masegela says the accused is in police custody and will be extradited to the US soon.
The members from Interpol engaged with SAPS Land in connection with an American male person wanted for several cases including who was suspected to be in the vicinity of Kanoneland. The SAPS comprising SAPS, Indian Border Police and Lapington Highway Patrol, along with the Interpol officials, successfully traced and arrested the suspect to one of the offices in the area. The suspect is currently in custody and is expected to be extradited soon.
Civic movement Soil of Africa is demanding increased law enforcement presence in Mamelodi East in Pretoria. This follows the brutal murder of two young women aged between 21 and 22 years old who were found shot dead yesterday. The motive behind the killing remains unknown. The movement's chairperson, Bongani Ramonja, says this is the third incident in the area within a week.
Our demands to the South African police is immediate deployment of all level of policing, including tactical response teams, crime intelligence and GBV units to Mamelodi East. Arrest of the perpetrator within 7 days. Failure to do so will compel the community led by SOA to lawfully shut down Mamelodi until justice is served. Inspection and enforcement of all taverns, cabins and liquor outlets for compliance with municipality and national law. Any business found operating illegal or serving as a hub for crime, trafficking or GBV must be shut down immediately.
Gauteng police have apprehended a second suspect linked to the Bronkhorstspruit Tavern shooting, which occurred earlier this month. Gauteng police spokesperson Brenda Moridili says the suspect was arrested during a tracing operation in Zitobeni Township on the 24th of October. Police recovered an unlicensed firearm with filed-off serial numbers during the arrest. Moridili says the first suspect, Xolani Musawenkosi Xulu, who was arrested on the 21st of October, is still in custody and he's due to appear before court on Thursday, while the second suspect is to appear today. Recapping the top story, the Madlanga Commission has been told of a massive backlog of firearm-related cases. Head of the ballistics section at the Police Forensic Science Laboratory, Brigadier Mishak Mukabela, is testifying at the commission. I am Wandalambana for SAfm News Headlines at 2:30.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. You could spend 10 minutes trying to fix the office printer or get a 10-minute quote from Outsurance that could save you thousands on your car insurance. For her 2025 Hyundai Exter, 65-year-old Helena now pays only 398 Rand a month. And for her 2024 Haval H6 4x4, 50-year-old Priya pays just 1,178 Rand a month. Ready to get more out of your car insurance? SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
Join us Tuesday evening at 6 on Afternoon Express as we open up to your best life. The one and only Somizi Mhlongo goes back to school as part of his newest foray in the world of fashion. Musical maestro Lord Kez unpacks her story and how her newest song is sweeping the nation. and we unpack how every South African can turn their dream into a reality. That's Tuesday evening at 6 with repeats Sunday mornings at 8:30 only on S3.
This October month, SAfm focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAfm brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAfm, leading the conversations that move us.
Extraordinary is built on innovation, and Vodacom Business is leading the way. They provide the cloud that scales with ambition, AI that drives smarter decisions, IoT that connects what truly matters, and secure connectivity that keeps everything moving. From small enterprises to public sector solutions, Vodacom Business is creating a future where every connection counts. Stronger businesses, thriving communities, a nation ready to lead. Visit www.vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business, further together.
I don't love school. I don't love trying to learn like everyone else learns and falling behind when I don't understand. But I do love learning. I do love working to my own schedule and getting the support when I need extra help. I do love UCT Online High School because I do love my future. Apply online before 28 November.
Don't miss your chance to shape the future. The Limpopo Investment Conference 2025. Limpopo Rising, Africa's new investment frontier. Your gateway to unparalleled opportunities from October 30 and 31st in Polokwane. Seize the groundbreaking prospects in mining, agriculture, tourism, and green energy. Connect with global visionaries and investors driving Africa's economic boom. Limpopo's wealth is waiting. Be part of the rise. Join the conversation on lic.lcxonline.co.za. Invest in Limpopo. Invest in success.
Bridget Masinga, weekdays on the Full Circle.
Alrighty, it's just gone 10 past 2 o'clock as we come out of that Commission of Inquiry's lunch break. So from our end, that's where we're going to leave it for this afternoon as we go back into the Madlanga Commission.
Address as to why that period. But Brigadier, that can't be the explanation because the bullet comes in August, but the 212 in relation to the bullet, if I remember correctly, was dated 14 October. So he'd actually entered the file into ABIS on 6 September before he completed his ballistics examination in relation to the bullet. We'll get a copy of that 212 from the case file, but I'm fairly certain that the data of if we go back to the entries that you discussed earlier,
Is it in 37.3?
I beg your pardon, Commissioner?
I'm saying, are you looking for paragraph 37.3 on page 17?
The third entry, indeed. The entry only gets assigned to him on 11th of October, and he issues his 212 on 14 October, and the entry is completed on 23 October. So the bullet happens after ABIS acquisition on 6 September. You do address, if you look at the top of page 19, you speak to a bottleneck that we actually didn't address earlier, which is which you address in paragraph 40 at the top of page 14, which is, well, maybe if you can just consider that paragraph and maybe read for the Commission what you state in that sentence that says in this regard.
Just paragraph again, Commissioner.
It's paragraph 40 of your affidavit. Starts on page 18, but it seems to me that the critical point is the last few sentences of that paragraph. where you deal about the bottleneck on getting into ABIS, just for registration, not for acquisition by the system.
The one which start with turnaround times.
Let me take you to this point that you make. You say that the ABIS system at head office receives on average 1,700 samples per month to enter into ABIS. With a current full complement of ABIS analysts working full-time on the process, the section has the capacity to enter approximately 1,300 samples per month. So the existing backlog at head office is continuing to grow at the rate of approximately 400 samples per month. Now, what are you talking about here? Is that acquisition on the system, or is it about simple registration at ABIS? What are we talking about there?
Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, on this paragraph, I was referring to the actual acquisitions of the specimens after all the administrations has been completed.
I hear you. So that issue there, 1,700 samples, an increasing backlog that increases by 400 per month, deals with acquisition, which is what took place on 6 September 2024.
That is correct, Commissioner. That is correct.
And is there any way of, I mean, if you want to fast track an individual file, is there a way of getting your file acquired sooner than 3 months?
The only way is when you jump the queue and pressurize whoever is available to acquire it as speedily as possible, but you'll have to jump the queue, commissioners.
But on what you say in paragraph 39, Captain Mokgotlwe did actually jump the queue. Because if he hadn't jumped the queue, we wouldn't have a ballistics lab number 193045 in the ABIS system. We would have had the regular ABIS lab number that was eventually assigned on 8 November.
That is correct, Commissioner.
So he jumped the queue, but he jumped the queue after 3 months, as it were.
Yes, it's also something which, like I said, I also had to apply my mind and see what actually happened. But in reality, if you check the flow of work coming, it is possible. And when you consider when the case was eventually registered under normal circumstances.
Can we then move to the acquisition of the ABIS lab number? And that you address in paragraph 41.
As indicated above, the Vereeniging and Bramley samples were acquired in the IBIS system prior to an IBIS lab number being generated by the case management section. However, the case management section still, at a later stage, generated lab 5655427/2024 on the 8th of November 2024. I referred to this earlier on.
Can I ask, how would that have happened? We've got Captain Mokgotlwe bringing the file and jumping the queue in September. How would an ABIS lab number then get, how would the file go back into the system so it gets an ABIS number? What physically would have happened?
Commissioners, the case files are managed by case management section. Once a case has been finalized, it goes to case management, either for dispatching, scanning of the 212 report and dispatching of the exhibit, and for archiving. Because for the IBIS lab number to be generated, a sticker must be affixed on the front page of the case file on the far right. So if this is a ballistic case file, for example, you will have one sticker on your on your left and one sticker on your right. The sticker on this side will be the ballistics with the lap number, and the one on the right will be the IBIS lap number. So as they process those case files, they will check the one that do not have the sticker. According to them, it means there is still some work outstanding. It means they must still generate an IBIS lab number on that particular case files. So the only logic is that once the member who acquired the specimen under the ballistic lab number, once she is done, she returned the case file to case management. But because there was no explanation, case management saw it as like all the other cases that must still go to IBIS for registration. Hence, they generated a lab number on the 8th of November 2024. That lab number, then therefore, because there was a lab number of IBIS, it has to again follow the process to be acquired. And only then, when the operator was supposed to acquire, when she opens the case file, she realizes that this case has already been acquired on the IBIS system. She then
Can I just stop you there? This case officer would then be warrant officer Shiklangu. Is it pronounced Shiklangu or Sichlangu?
Sichlangu.
Sichlangu. I was several of your experts, not your experts, your officers yesterday were using Shiklangu. So warrant officer Sichlangu gets this file again on 2 December 2024. How would she, at that stage, know that it's already gone through the ABIS database?
Commissioners, there is a log that is attached inside the case file, which keeps a record of the dates, seal back that are open, events. So it's like a diary that is attached inside the case file, where you record everything that is happening with that case. So obvious, when you open, surely should have seen, you could have realized that there's records that a seal bag was open and the specimens were acquired. Therefore, I need not proceed with this case.
If you can then continue.
The person who generated this lab number, I've explained this, did not have sight of the fact that the samples had already been acquired on the IBIS system. And then on the 2nd of December 2024, the same lab number, 565427 of 2024, was assigned to Warrant Officer Sihlangu. We have already explained this for acquisition purposes. Upon realizing that the specimens for the Vereeniging case were already acquired on IBIS through ballistic lab number 193045 of 2024, related to the Bramley case, she did not proceed with the acquisition of these specimens, as the specimen already existed on the IBIS database. She then took the case to Warrant Officer Mbiza for review. She's responsible for review. And on the 3rd of December, Warrant Officer Mbiza then cancelled the number 565427 of 2024 on the FSL system. And the reason given in the system reads incorrect registration. So, Commissioners, what was cancelled was an entry on the FSL system, which was not supposed to have been created in the first place.
And if you can just explain that, why wasn't this entry 56427 of 24 one that shouldn't have been created in the first place?
In the first place, because the specimens were already acquired using the ballistics lab number. So if the members had sight to that, they could not have proceeded to register a lab number again.
Can we then just look at the registration screenshots that you attach as Annexure MNM2 from page 11 of the Annexures file? And can you describe what we see on the first page of that annexure, page 11?
Commissioners, this is a printout from the FSL system, which contains the records of this particular case. It gives you the lab number of the case, the entry number, and the person to whom the case was assigned to. And then it gives you the details of the section IBIS. It also gives you the reason why the case was cancelled and the comment cancelled, then the reason why it was cancelled.
And then if we go over the page?
When you go over the page, it's another window that you open on the system. It gives you the lab number of the case, the person to whom the case was assigned, the section. Now it gives you all the details. Now, the date when the case was registered, the date when it was assigned, and the date when it was completed, and the reason for completion, and the person who completed it on the system.
And there we see that cancellation is recorded as having been completed on 3 December 2024 by Mbiza.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And the third screen on page 13?
This is just the same window, but in a magnified, and it does not give the it does not give the entire information, but it's the same window print out, Commissioners.
Can you then describe the entries that are recorded on the FSL admin system regarding the Bramley and Vereeniging cases in KZN? Because you spoke earlier of entries not just at head office, but also at KZN.
Commissioner, at a later stage, the system will show that the Bramley case was then referred to KZN for further examination. When it arrived in KZN, they generated a new lab number 469673 of 2024. This case was registered on the 13th of September 2024 in KZN. And it relates to the exhibits firearms which were recovered from the Bramley when the suspects were arrested. And this entry was then assigned to Warrant Officer Kader. He is stationed in KZN Ballistics. He finalizes the case on the system on the 4th of October 2024.
And the Vereeniging case?
The Vereeniging case, again, it was also sent down to ballistics in KZN, and a lab number was generated for the same case, 634383, which was generated on the 10th of December 2024. This was relating to firearms, and the entry was assigned to one Captain Mkachwa on the 11th of December 2024, and it was finalized. It was Captain Mkachwa must just state that he was deployed from our office to assist the political killing task team in KZN at that time. The system was finalized on the system on the 7th of January 2025, Commissioners.
And the ABIS acquisition in KZN?
Commissioners, the Vereeniging and Bramley cases in KZN were also acquired on IBIS system. a lab number 469673 of 2024 was generated for the Bramley case in KZN, and it was acquired by Warrant Officer Mkhize from KZN using lab number 507815 of 2024. On the 16th of January 2025, the Vereeniging case with lab number 634383 of 2024 was again acquired by the IBIS in KZN on the following lab number 16554 of 2025 and acquired by Warrant Officer Mzimela.
And the ABIS number for that acquisition?
It is 16554 of 2025, Commissioners.
And those are the only entries in the audit trails on the FSL system and the ABIS system. Well, if we go back, from paragraphs 41 to 48, you have described all of the entries on the audit trail of the ABIS and FSL system for these two files.
In KZN, yes, Commissioner.
No, because if you go back to 41, sorry, you're right. I need to take you further back. It's from paragraph 33 on page 15 to paragraph 48 on page 21. You've described every single entry on the audit trails on the FSL and ABIS systems for these two cases, be it in head office or KZN.
That is correct, Commissioners.
And to the best of your knowledge, it's not possible to tamper with those audit trails.
Not possible, Commissioners.
Advocate Chaskalson, can I ask a question here? Brigadier, if the system in Pretoria works so well, why did the two cases end up in KZN? What's the reason for that?
Commissioner, it's a question that I'm also asking. I'm asking myself that question, Commissioner. And I do not have an answer, Commissioner, because myself as the custodian of cases in the head office, Pretoria, if there's any request, it must go through my office and there must be a reason. If the client is not happy with my service, I've got a procedure to attend to client's complaint. So if it was because there was some unhappiness, there's a procedure to deal with that unhappiness. But in this instance, it only came under my attention at a later stage that cases were in actual fact being committed between the two labs on a regular basis. So I cannot give an answer as to what was the reason for that, Commissioner.
If I remember the evidence of the investigating officers, it was suggested that at least in the affidavits, there were some omissions, either deliberate or negligent, I cannot remember. And the ballistics reports were not done properly. Hence, it was resolved that the cases be taken to another lab in KwaZulu-Natal. Are you aware of that?
I only came aware after this year, and I attended to it. I'm sure it's in my statement. But we have a procedure. If that was the case, it happens, then we deal with it. So if that was the reason, but I was not informed when they were taking them as to what was. I only find out when it was brought under my attention that those cases were in KZN. That is when I happened to know about that. Okay, those cases, Commissioner.
Are you aware that in the 1112 affidavits, there were omissions relating to, I think, the 15 cartridges that were recovered in Bramley?
Commissioner, I'm aware that there were typos, type errors.
No, not typos, omissions.
Commissioner, I would like to explain. if I may be given an opportunity, what we said to the commission, what were they? I'll have to refer to the statements because that it will explain exactly what happened. If I may just given leave to open that statement, commissioners. It will be evidence leader. It will be MMN4, annexure MMN4.
That's the report on a non-conformance report.
That's correct, Commissioner. And then you go to the statements.
Okay.
On page 25.
On page 20. So this document, can we just explain to the Commission what this document is? So to start off, you've just confirmed it is a non-conformance report. When was it produced?
Commissioner, the non-conformance.
Yes.
Commissioner, it's in my statement. There was an incident and I was visited by the investigators on the 8th of January 2025. I'm sure I'm ahead of the evidence leader on this one. 8th of January 2024, which is covered in my statement on page.
It's page 24.
Yes.
And what was their complaint to you?
Commissioner, their complaint was that they came to look for a statement which they've discussed with the analyst. Their concern was that there were omissions of results in the statement. I then asked them to give me a copy of that statement. Upon perusing the statement, which is on page, which is the one which start on page 18. I realized that it was the statement.
Can I take you back, Brigadier? It seems that their complaints were. You've raised a complaint about omissions in the results. There are other. I mean, if one looks at the top of page 25, there are other complaints. There's a complaint about discrepancies in the initial affidavit, which would be the May 2024 affidavit, and the backdating of the amended affidavit that sought to address the initial problems. So there was an underlying complaint also about an omission of results, an omission of reference to other matches or other hits. Is that correct?
That is correct, Commissioner.
What was your response to these complaints?
I requested them to produce the report, which I went through in their presence, and indeed I could see that they were typing errors.
Why do you describe them as typing errors?
First thing, commissioners, I will go to the pages. When I checked, because they were saying that the findings of the 15 cartridge cases of AK-47 were not done. There was no reference to those findings. So I said, then I checked the statement. The first thing that I saw, I wanted to see if in the statement, did the analyst did the work? So when I checked on paragraph 10, firstly, under the microscope, maybe I will take the commissioner slowly so that they can understand, because you won't see it immediately. if you go to paragraph 10, I will read it for the record. I examined the fired cartridge case.
Sorry, Brigadier, just because we're going to look at least two versions of this affidavit and possibly a third. Can you just indicate where you're reading from? And I think you're reading from page 25 of the annexure bundle.
That's correct, Commissioner.
And that is a copy of the original report that was furnished in May 2024.
That is correct, Commissioner. I examined the fired cartridge cases and bullets mentioned in paragraph 3.1, paragraph 3.4, paragraph 4.9. I've cycled 4.9. I'll come back to that. Paragraph 4.10, paragraph 4.11, and tests mentioned in 7.2 and 7.5, and compared the individual and class characteristics markings transferred to them by the firearm components during the firing process using a comparison microscope, and found. I'm going back to that 4.9. If you go to the statement and check the exhibits mentioned in 4.9, I'll give the paragraph now. 4.9. 4.9 on page 23 is the 15 7.62 by 39 millimeter caliber fired cartridge cases and mark them AA3A to AA30. Now,
can I just stop there, Brigadier? Those are 15 AK-47 cartridges in the Bramley case that were found in possession of the suspects when they were arrested in Bramley.
That is correct, Commissioner. Now, when you go back to that paragraph that I read, 10, the analyst is telling you that I compared these cartridge cases with the test which are mentioned here. Now, let's look at paragraph 10.2 and 10.6 simultaneously. 10.2 and 10.6. If you check there, he says the cartridge on 10.2, the cartridge cases mentioned in 3.4. I've cycled the 3.4. You go to 10.6. He says the bullet core mentioned in 3.4. Again, so you've got 3.4 there. That tells you that you've got a problem. Now, when you go to 3.4 to see the description of the exhibit in 3.4, 3.4 describe the exhibit as two 7.62 millimeter caliber fired bullet cores and mark them lap number AA3 and AA9. Those are bullet cores. So the findings of the bullet core is in 10.6. He says the bullet cores mentioned in 3.4 are not suitable for microscopic comparison due to damage. So we know that those core are unsuitable for comparison. So if we go back to paragraph 10.2, he started the sentence by saying the cartridge cases mentioned in 3.4. We have already dealt with 3.4, and we know it's not cartridge cases. Those are bullets. And they are unsuitable for microscopic comparison. But this paragraph says these cartridge cases mentioned in 3.4 were fired in the firearm mentioned in 4.1. We go to the description of the exhibit in 4.1. It says 7.62 by 39 millimeter caliber AK model 47 assault rifle with serial number 575363 with 4 magazines. He's saying now these cores mentioned in 3.4 were fired by this AK. And we know now that there's no way you can compare them because they were unsuitable for comparison. So the mistake is glaring. And now, can it be interpreted? Can it be interpreted as tampering? I say I have a procedure in place to investigate when we come across such incidences. And the procedure is to register a non-conformance, investigate. The investigation will tell you what happened. And in these instances, commissioners, upon receiving this complaint, I immediately embarked on that process to have this matter investigated. We registered a non-conformance, which is also attached under the same annexures. And through the investigation, we end up retrieving this report because it's wrong and replacing it with the correct, where there is reference to these 15 cartridge cases and the AK-47. Hence, I'm saying only through the investigation you can tell whether the mistake was deliberate, tampering, but it was investigated and corrective actions were implemented, commissioners.
Let's just to be clear, the mistake in 10.2 on page 25. 10.2 should have read as follows. The cartridge cases mentioned in 4.9 were fired in the firearm mentioned in 4.1. That's how it should have read.
That is how it should have been read,
So
commissioners.
the 15 cartridge cases in paragraph 4.9 were omitted, or there was an error there, however you want to characterize it.
I had to go further to check the comparison mic form in the case file with the handwritten notes. I noticed that in the microscope, the member confirmed the cartridge cases in them, and he has written notes that these 15 cartridge cases were fired from this firearm. So the only question is when he transferred the results into the affidavit, he made an error with the paragraphs. That was my explanation. That's my explanation, commissioners.
It seems to me there are two possibilities. The one possibility is it was a sloppy error, that in recording what happened to the cartridges that he mentions, cartridges and bullets mentioned in that first line of paragraph 10, the warrant officer Makgotlwe, instead of writing 4.9, wrote 3.4 and just got the cross-reference wrong. That's the one possibility. The other possibility is that it was deliberate, and it was an attempt to sabotage the not the investigation, but the prosecution. But I want to interrogate the second possibility, because that is certainly how it was perceived by the investigating officers. But it seems to me that if you were going to sabotage the investigation or the prosecution this way, it would be rather strange. Because if you look at what else he says in his reports, bear in mind that what he should have said in 10.2 is the 15 cartridge cases that were found in Bramley, which wasn't the crime scene of the murder, were fired in the AK-47 seized in Bramley. That's what he should have said. Instead, he said something that ultimately is clearly self-destructive. But look at what he said in 10.1. He said the bullets mentioned in 3.3, and if we go back to 3.3, the bullets mentioned in 3.3 are AK-47 bullets retrieved from the scene of the murder. You'll see that at page 22. They're in the Vereniging file, and it's paragraph 3.3. So he positively confirms that the AK-47 bullets at the scene of the murder are fired from the AK-47 that the suspects are caught with. That seems to me the single most important finding in relation to the AK-47 in terms of linking the suspects to the murder in Vereniging, and that he confirms. But he goes further. He mentions in 10.3 the cartridge cases mentioned in 3.1, that's the Parabellum, the 9mm cartridge cases found at the scene in Vereniging. And 4.11, that we see at 23, that's one fired cartridge case found in Bramley. So both cartridge cases found both at the murder scene in Vereniging and at the arrest in Bramley are fired from the firearm mentioned in 4.7, which I think is the Taurus firearm, which was seized from the suspects. Again, if you're looking to sabotage the prosecution or the investigation, it's strange to tie the suspects to cartridge cases found on the scene of the murder and a cartridge case found in their possession at the time, because that would definitely link them to the murder scene. Then similarly, 10.4, the bullets mentioned in 3.2. These are 4 9mm caliber bullets found on this murder scene at Vereniging. He confirms that they are fired from the firearm in 4.7, the Taurus firearm. So he has tied the suspects to the murder scene with his conclusions in respect of the Taurus and the AK-47. What he hasn't done is tied the gun in the possession of which the suspects were found to cartridge cases that were also found in their possession at the time. It seems to me that of all of the findings that one would need to convict these people, the one that is of least value is to show that when you arrest them and they're carrying empty cartridge cases and a rifle, the empty cartridge cases were fired from the rifle. You know that they had both the empty cartridge cases and the rifle at the same time. That seems to me the least important of all of the conclusions, and that's the one that he got wrong. So it does seem to me that viewed in isolation, this error certainly doesn't of its own point to a deliberate attempt at sabotage. But there are other mistakes that may make the situation different. So let me take you to.
Don't you want the witness to
Well,
comment?
can you comment on what I've put to you in relation to whether this is deliberate sabotage or just a sloppy error?
Thank you, Commissioners. My emphasis on the 10.1, the bullet. In the ballistic language, when one is able to link a bullet with a firearm, that for us is a big plus for the case as compared to the cartridge. I'm not undermining the cartridge cases, but a bullet in most cases is removed from the deceased. So if you can be able to link the firearm to the bullet which was removed from the deceased, you have undoubtedly placed the firearm on the scene. And under these circumstances, this is what the member has done. And I'm sure if he did that with a mind to sabotage, his brains needs to be examined. There is something wrong with him, because the evidence suggests otherwise, Commissioners.
Well, I just need to correct you on one issue there, Brigadier. These bullets were found on the scene, but not in the body of the deceased. Remember that the bullet in the body of the deceased is the subject of a separate report on the 14th of October. But for the record, I mean, we will look at that report with Captain Mkachwa. But for the record, that report, also prepared by Captain Makhotle, confirms that the bullet taken out of the body of the deceased was linked to I think it was the AK-47, it may have been the Taurus pistol, but we'll deal with that with Captain Mkachwa tomorrow. These bullets were bullets picked up on the crime scene. They weren't recovered from the body of the deceased.
Mr. Chesterton, if you're moving on, can I just ask on this?
I'm not moving on from the report as a whole, but I'm moving on from this section of the report.
That's my question. Thank you. Brigadier, and it's really me trying to understand, to follow your evidence, the cross-referencing that you're doing between the different paragraphs 3, paragraph 4, and then where the findings are made. What does it mean that in paragraph 3, for example, he says, I received an intact sealed evidence bag with, and then he gives a number, right?
Yes.
And then he describes what he found in that number. And as I understand it, of interest has been 3.4, subparagraph 3.4. And then you go to paragraph 4, it's a completely different bag where he describes what's in that bag. It's a different number. And he describes what he found there. And in fact, in particular, 4.1, he says a sealed evidence bag, which is something that we're discussing now, and he gives a number there, 4.1. And then you go to 4.9, it's a different number. Now, given the cross-referencing where you were referred at page 25 to 4.9, and you've done the cross-referencing, to show us that in fact he did do the examinations and he's accounted for them. What does it mean that there are different numbers to this? Because in my mind, it suggests he had different specimens in sealed evidence bags.
That is correct, Commissioner, because these were two cases.
Yes.
He had the Bramley case and the Ferienachen cases, and each of the exhibits were packaged separately in a tempered seal bags. So he was referring to those seal bags as he opened them and as he received them, Commissioners.
Yes. So 4.9, as I say, it has its own bag number, right? It has its own sealed evidence bag number. Where does one see from your explanation that he's made findings about what was in that bag, which has a number ending 207?
I read paragraph 10 where he is now giving his findings.
Yes.
And in that paragraph, that's where now he referred to all the microscopic comparison that he was doing, he was conducting, and he made reference to that paragraph 4.9, which tells me that it was part of his microscope work. On paragraph 10, I said he mentioned all the paragraphs with cartridge cases, bullets, which were supposed to have been compared with the test. And that 4.9 appears on that paragraph. It means he worked on it as well.
So do you say 4.9 appears in paragraph 10?
Paragraph 10, yes, Commissioner.
Where in the findings in paragraph 10 does it appear?
He starts with a preamble.
Yes.
Of what he is going to do.
Or of what he examined.
Yes, yes.
And then from 10.1.
Then from 10.1 it started to be now specifics.
Yes, and that's a part I'm not understanding, and it may well be it's me, where you say he has made findings about the specimen in paragraph 4.9, right? So he says, I examined 4.9, the casings or the cartridge cases that are in paragraph 4.9. And then one goes to 4.9 to see what is in 4.9. And what you find in 4.9 is 15 7.62 by 39 caliber fired cartridge cases. So we know that's what is examined, and that's what he tells us in the first line.
Yes,
and then my reading of the rest of that paragraph 10 is from 10.1 to 10.6. He then tells us what findings he made in respect of those cartridge cases that he examined.
Yes,
what I'm not understanding is where in this 10.1 to 10.6 do you say he makes findings about what is described in 4.9?
Thanks, Commissioner. That is where I was referring to paragraph 10.2 and 10.6 and said that he referred to 3.4 in paragraph 10.2 and he also referred to 3.4 in paragraph 3 in paragraph 10.6. Then I said it doesn't make sense that he will refer to the same paragraph in two different findings. He can't say it's in paragraph 10.2, cartridge cases mentioned in 3.4. And again, he can't say the same with paragraph 3.4 in paragraph 10.6, the bullets cost mentioned in 3.4. That in itself is a problem because it tells you 3.4 on paragraph, how possible is that you compare these exhibits in 3.4 and you made findings in two different, you made findings on the same exhibit twice. So the only explanation is that on paragraph 10.2, it was supposed to be 4.9 as opposed to 3.4. Because we now know that 3.4 are not cartridge cases. 3.4 refers to bullet core. And we are saying that those bullet cores were unsuitable for microscopic comparisons. So if you refer to the 3.4 in 10.2, definitely that is a mistake. As to how do you attribute that mistake is something else. That is what I was saying, commissioners.
And the reviewer missed the mistake. I'm assuming the 112 was reviewed. So, sorry, 212.
That is correct, Commissioner.
In terms of the process you described this morning, you said these statements or affidavits would be reviewed. So are you saying the reviewer also missed that mistake?
Commissioner, when I checked the case file, the review checklist was signed by a reviewer. So no doubt the reviewer also missed this. And not only this one, they also missed, if you check on paragraph 13.5, instead of saying 24 March, May, they say 24 March. 13.6, instead of saying 24 May, he says 24 March. So both the reviewer and the member missed those mistakes, commissioners.
Brigadier, in fairness to the reviewer, we've seen the case file. Again, it was something I was going to address with Captain Mkachwa. The reviewer actually did not sign off on this file, on this report. The reviewer was asked to sign off and circled no and gave a set of instructions of errors and cross-referred to errors that she had put in the Vereeniging case file, indicating what had to be corrected.
On the top stories, ballistic expert Mkabela concerned about mishandling of evidence and a U.S. wanted citizen arrested in the Northern Cape. For SAfm News, I'm Ondalambana and a very good afternoon. SAP's ballistic expert Brigadier Mishak Mkabela has questioned the delays in crucial evidence reaching his department. Mkabela has told the Madlanga Commission that although the murder of Vereeniging engineer Armand Swart occurred on 17 April last year, a bullet was recovered during the victim's autopsy only arrived at the forensic laboratory nearly 3 months later. Mkabela raised concerns about the chain of custody and possible mishandling of evidence.
When the IO wants the report, they will not consider the part that they played in order to delay the case. They will want you to finalize the case now. But when you check the timelines, surely the autopsy was not performed around August. I don't think so. So surely the bullet was lying somewhere and someone delayed to deliver it in the lab. Just by way of passing, commissioners. Deceased was shot on the 17th of April. Surely it could not have taken 3 months for autopsy to be conducted on the body to remove the bullet.
Justice and Constitutional Development Deputy Minister Andres Nel says strengthening the existing Protection Disclosure Act will go a long way in protecting whistleblowers. Nel says the delay in realigning the current legislation is of a serious concern and continues to endanger those who want to share information on corruption, among others. He was speaking at the Public Interest South Africa Annual Whistleblower Summit in Johannesburg. The gathering of whistleblowers, policymakers, media and civil society experts aims to shift societal norms towards transparency and accountability in the public and private sectors. Nell believes caring for whistleblowers must go beyond their safety.
We do have legislation in terms of the Protected Disclosures Act, which was passed in 2000. That was a major step ahead. It does provide protection, especially in the employment context. But we've seen that in recent years, how whistleblowers have been victimized and have in many cases lost their lives. And it's very clear, amongst others, also the recommendations of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council have made very, very strong recommendations about how existing legislation can be improved. The department has taken that to heart. We are ready.
The Free State Department of Roads has officially terminated a multi-million rand road construction project between Makwadi and Clocolan. Progress on the project has stalled due to the service provider failing to meet the contract's conditions. The 274 million rand project has left Makwadi disappointed as they've previously made demands to be included in the project. Free State Premier Makwin Letsoha Mataya elaborates.
We had to do that now because the performance of the contractor there was only putting us into trouble. Communities are starting to organize themselves, farmers, taxi association, because the performance is really, the pace that this contractor is moving with is very, very slow. And he has been given opportunities to really correct the situation. But it seems like if we don't terminate, we'll be heading to a disaster and we'll be heading to the situation that we had at R709.
A 41-year-old American citizen wanted for multiple crimes committed in the USA has been arrested at a local farm at Ganulaland near Kakamas in Northern Cape. The man was arrested during a joint operation between SAPS and the Interpol. He faces charges of kidnapping and other cases. Police spokesperson Mpila Masakela says the accused is in police custody and will be extradited to the USA soon.
The members from Interpol engaged with SAPS in Ganulaland in connection with an American male person wanted for several cases, including who was suspected to be in the vicinity of Ganulaland. The SAPS comprises Ganulaland, SAPS, African Border Police, and African Highway Patrol, along with the Interpol officials, successfully traced and arrested the suspect at one of the farms in the area. The suspect is currently in custody and is expected to be extradited soon.
Cameroon's longtime president Paul Biya has been declared the winner of the country's fiercely disputed elections. Biya, who's 92, has been in power for more than 4 decades and now has another 7-year mandate. This is the moment when the president of the Constitutional Council, Clement Atangana, announced the official results.
Order of the candidates according to votes obtained.
Recapping the top story, SAPS ballistic expert Brigadier Meshach Mkabela has questioned delays in crucial evidence reaching his department. I'm on Lambana for SAfm News Headlines at 3:30.
In sports this hour, Bavuma returns to Proteas men's squad for India Test Series, and Rebecca Meder claims 4th bronze to conclude World Cup campaign. More details at 3:30.
SAfm supports a litter-free South Africa. Play your part in keeping our surroundings and environment clean. SAfm, leading the conversation. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAfm. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So how was your weekend? What is it that you did over the weekend?
And for all of us, it's it's family visiting and gatherings. For many people, it's funerals, meeting people who are ill, socializing, and then of course keeping an eye on the big social political issues that always develop and emanate over the weekend. And then the Nelson Mandela lecture, and of course there's sport. If I missed anything out, I don't know, but maybe tell me, how was your weekend and what did you do? And talking about Nelson Mandela and the lecture, did you attend? SAfm broadcast live the entire lecture. So did you attend in person, or did you listen to that lecture? And if so, give me your thoughts about what you heard from Francesca Albanese, just in terms of what came through from herself and Naledi Pandor as well in the Q&A that came up later on.